Hey guys, this is Tauna. Today we're going to be talking about some strong cards from a forgotten Magic the Gathering set. That's right, this is a set that barely anyone really remembers exists. It is a great set with some great cards that you might have passed over. So I just want to kind of bring them to your attention so that way you guys can check them out. Make sure you guys subscribe and make sure that if you are going to be grabbing them, go on down, click the link that we're going to have down there where you can support the channel and get the cards for the cheapest prices around. So what was the set and why was it forgotten? So around the same time as MKM came out, Wizards of the Coast released the new bundle essentially of Cluedo / Clue. So this was it was Clue Ravnica edition. It was not well received because the packs in it were essentially like random jumpstart packs, but it was random which ones you got. So you could get double, triple, even 4 of the same pack. Some of the reprints in it weren't all that great, but it had some absolute bangers for new packs, as well as, you know, people didn't want to grab it because what if you got 4 really bad packs, or if you could have got 4 of the kind of best packs. It all kind of came down to just a random chance of awfulness. But if you are going to be looking at any of these cards, I would not get them as, you know, like in the Ravnica bundle. I would not get that. I would just go and buy the singles, unless you can find the Ravnica bundles on like clearance, which they are going down to now, or at least here in Australia. So what kind of cards were in it? Each pack was themed around one of the different guilds within Ravnica. There was a mix of old cards reprinted and some new cards as well. There was a lot of Investigate cards, but also there's some generically guild-based cards with like the themes from the guild. So like Mentor, Adapt, Afterlife, etc. So the first one here we're going to talk about. Now, I've done this slightly different than I usually do, so let me know if you guys like the way I do it here. I'm going to show you like a couple different commanders that could go with, the price is down here, and then the actual cards here. So I don't know, maybe that's easier, who knows. So we had Conclave Evangelist here. So it is a myriad elephant that when it deals combat damage to a player, it's going to create a token that's a copy of it. The cool thing about that is that that token copy is then also going to have myriad. So that means, you know, the first time you attack with it, it's going to come up in myriad. Say you hit someone else, then you've got 2 that are going to myriad, etc. It's going to be really bonkers. Now, this could go really well in like a Jetmir deck that's going wide, or a Gira deck where you can use your non-token creatures to tap and then create copies of the myriad ones. This can tap at instant speed, so you can create a whole bunch of these Conclave Evangelists that are then also going to all have myriad. It's going to be really crazy. All right, we've got Covetous Elegy here. So each player chooses 2 creatures they control and then sacrifices the rest. Then you create a tapped treasure for each creature your opponents control. So this essentially refunds itself for in the future. It talks about wartime loans. That's essentially what it is that if, you know, your opponents end up having 2 creatures left, you're going to get 6 treasures, and then it's refunded itself for in the future. So any kind of gold deck could go, any treasure deck could go really well with this, whether it's Vihan or whether it's Malik. Malik, obviously, making it so that your opponent's sacrificing stuff also gives you more treasures. And the fact that it is sacrifice means that it bypasses all those destroy, like indestructible or like hexproof or anything like that. It's going to make it so that your opponent has to sack it. Goodbye. All right, we've got Emissary Green. So the actual face commanders, or I call them face commanders, like the face Legendaries, the borderless ones, most of those are really decent, and they're also really cheap. So this is Emissary Green. He's only costing 5. Whenever he attacks, each player votes for either profit or security. You create a number of treasures equal to twice the number of profit votes. So all you need is one person to vote for profit, and boom, you're getting 2 2 treasures. They're not even tapped. And then you get to put a number of +1/+1s on each creature you control equal to the number of security votes. So if someone votes for security and you've got a wide board, boom, you're getting so many +1/+1s. So this could work well in Era Store, like a voting based deck there, or it could work really well in a Vazi Key Navigator one, because that's based around, you know, having treasures and you getting some treasures, and then you can make opponents treasures based on, you know, you tapping her and giving opponents treasures. Really cool stuff. As well as the fact that she's got like +1/+1 synergy as well. We've got Lavinia, foil to Conspiracy. So anytime you cast your second spell each turn, Investigate, you can then tap, add 2 colors, activate only during an opponent's turn. So this is going to work well in any deck that wants to play on opponent's turn. So Miss Bumbleflower will be able to do that. This mana that you get from here does not need to be used on like Investigate stuff, but you can use it on Investigate stuff if you want to. You can also have it with Morska, based around like, you know, card draw kind of decks too. And the fact that, you know, Lavinia has Vigilance means that you're going to be able to attack with them and then be able to also tap them later on. This 34 cents was either buy a box promo or bring a friend promo or something like that. It was a promo, so you can get that one for 34 cents pretty cheap. All right, we've got Lonus, Genetics Expert. This is the one that I absolutely love. I've got it in my Madame Vastra Jenny Flint deck, because Jenny Flint is whenever you sack an artifact, then you're going to be able to, I can't remember if sack an artifact or sack a clue or food, put a +1/+1 on something. But then you've got Lonus here, who is whenever one or more +1/+1s are put onto Lonus, investigate that many times. You can get so many +1/+1s from this, not just from, you know, Jenny Flint, as I said then, but also just from Evolve. You're going to get a bunch of +1s, and then whenever you sacrifice a clue, you get to put a +1/+1 on another target creature you control. Really cool. It could also just go in a Lonus Cryptozoologist deck, or it could be like all of these ones that I'm talking about are legendaries, could just be commanders on their own too. We've got Mastermind Plum. So Mastermind Plum, whenever you attack, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. If it was an artifact, you exile, create a treasure. But the second part here is the part that's really good. Whenever you cast a spell, if a mana from a treasure was spent to cast it, draw a card, lose a life. So this can go really well in a Bureaucrat deck, where you're creating treasures and doing stuff with treasures there, as well as the fact that Mastermind Plum gives you a wizard for it. We've also got Kalane here. Whenever he enters, create a treasure. Other creatures you control get an additional +1/+1 on them for each mana for a treasure spent to cast them. So therefore, you know, spending your mana with Mastermind Plum, they kind of, you know, you can see the synergy there. We got Senator Peacock. All your artifacts become clues in addition to whatever else they are, but also whenever you sack a clue, target creature can't be blocked this turn. So an Ezram deck, which is based around sacking artifacts, or like a Jenny Flint deck, the sack with Madame Vastra around sacking artifacts, you can get unblockable creatures really, really easily with it, especially Ezram, because Ezram gets like a buff based off of sacking creatures. So you pay 1, sacking clues. So you pay 1, sack a clue, boom, give him lifelink, vigilance, whatever, and then also unblockable. Stampede Surfer. So Stampede Surfer, whenever they attack, for each opponent, you create a 2/2 green ball that's tapped and attacking that opponent. So you can do stuff like Samut, where it deals, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, if it entered the battlefield this turn, draw a card. So that means that, you know, they're more likely to let you 2/2 through than other stuff. So you can draw cards pretty easily off of this. So you could potentially draw like 3, attacking that opponent. You can, you can essentially draw like 3 cards potentially from this. You've also got like Wolfgar, which is double your combat, your attacking triggers. So you can get like, you know, 2 balls attacking each person then pretty easily. Unruly Cris. So it's very cheap. I'm actually surprised about how cheap it is. 1 green and blue for a 4/4 with trample. Whenever it attacks, you can have the base power and toughness of another target creature you control become XX until end of turn, where X is Unruly Cris's power. So This to me screams +1/+1, right? Because you can get the +1s up really easily. So then Unruly Cris, let's say Unruly Cris has 5+1/+1. So it's a 9/9, right? Now, if you've got 5+1/+1 on Pier, so then Pier's a 6/6, you come along with Cris, that means that Pier becomes a 9/9 base with also those +1/+1s on top of that, because it doesn't change what their toughness and power is. It's their base toughness and power, which means that boom, now all of a sudden those +1s are still on top of whatever you do there. So stuff like Pier and Toothy that do stuff with +1s work really well, or Kiora go into like your Octopus, Leviathan, Shark, Kraken, kind of that kind of stuff as well, and do some really cool stuff there where it's like some weird funky tribal. We got Vernal Sovereign. So whenever Vernal Sovereign enters or attacks, create a green and white elemental creature token with this creature's power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. So this is obviously a huge go wide deck, but because like that limitation of only being able to create one of them per turn, we want stuff like Trostani that's populate, Rise that's populate, even like the Gira that I well, Rise isn't populate, but it's similar. Even the Gira that I talked about before, turning all of your creatures that are non-token creatures into tap, create a creature that's power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. That's bonkers. This is a 56-cent card. You could go really, really ham with this. We've got Amzu, Swarm's Hunger, probably one of the more expensive ones from the set, but also because of the fact that it's just huge for any like insect deck. You can go like with Grist with this, or Zira. It gives all your insects menace, and then whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, you may create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token, then put a number of +1/+1s on it equal to the greatest mana value among those cards. So for Grist and stuff like that, that are, you know, return cards from your graveyard, etc., that are based around milling, you could do some really crazy stuff with this and get a huge amount of insects out. We got Hypothesa White, which is probably the one that kind of triggered so much about this. Like I just completely missed this card, even though I'm making a Balin deck. It's insane in Balin. So Apothecary White has Vigilance. Whenever you attack, so even Apothecary White doesn't even have to attack, you create a food for each player being attacked. So you could potentially create like, you know, 3 foods, right? You then pay white and tap X untapped foods you control, and then create humans. So you're taking all those foods you control, tapping them, and then creating that many humans. It's crazy. So in like a Balin deck that's already creating a huge amount of foods, a huge amount of creature tokens, this is crazy. In Samwise Gamgee, where it's whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, create a food. You're going to get a huge amount of foods. Apothecary White turns those huge amount of foods into huge amount of creature tokens. Boom. It's really, really good. Especially because, you know, Apothecary White is a legendary, so you can bring it back with Sam as well. I love it. It also has Vigilance, so you can still like attack with it and then go with the white and then like use this afterwards. I love it. So we've got Afterlife Insurance. Creatures you control gain Afterlife 1 until end of turn, draw a card. So if you've already got a big board, boom, now you've got a big board that when they die are all going to come back with spirits. It is creatures you control, not even non-token creatures. So if you've got a huge amount of token creatures out, boom, now all your token creatures, when they die, are going to come back as tokens. So, Taser is going to essentially double the amount of tokens you've got when this happens, if you've got like black creatures out. Also, you can sack these tokens to exile a target creature. The one that's going to be really strong with this, though, is the Awaken the Blood altar. The flip side of it, that can technically be a commander because the front side is a legendary. This is based around, you know, you can make it cheaper by sacking any number of creatures, and each creature that you sack, it reduces its cost by 2. You can sack all your creatures, they die, Afterlife triggers, they come back as creatures, then next turn you can sack them all again. And especially if you've got, you know, the taster up here, that is whenever a black creature dies, you can, you know, suck him again. Like, it's, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Let me know what you guys think. Is there any ones in here that I let you guys know about and you didn't know about? Any of them that, you know, should have been obvious? And also, how did you like the format of it? Do you like me showing like a couple commanders and the card and the price? Have a great day and goodbye.